Winston, thanks, buddy. Thanks for joining us on this, man. And
Pleasure's mine. Pleasure's
we have a
mine.
lot to unpack. I know you guys just finished up a U.S. tour, like a smaller run than you're used to, but no less well received as we
Mm.
kind of expected. Out with Memphis Mayfire and the band Currents.
Yeah,
How was this run? Is this kind of your first time back to the U.S. in a while?
yeah.
And you
First time
kind of
back,
did,
man.
yeah.
It was really,
And
really good. I'm talking over the top of you here, but yeah, no, it was good. It was our first time back, and it was really good. It was basically us, I guess, testing the waters, so to speak. Oh my God, I'm into nautical puns already, but testing the waters after 3 years of not touring in the States. So yeah, it was a really good tour considering we had no idea what to expect.
it's interesting too for you guys. It's almost kind of a little bit of a throwback because it wasn't the full show. It was just basically
Yeah.
lights and a good use of haze and the music.
Yeah.
Sometimes is that good? Sometimes because I know the pressure. Sometimes we use stage shows because it helps kind of bring the spectacle and stuff like that, and it takes a little pressure off the band because it's like, look at the shiny stuff we got here. What's it like, kind of going back to just? I mean, your music just it's its own thing. It doesn't need any smoke and
Yeah.
mirrors to distract from it. How is it like kind of going back and doing that? Because I know you did Europe in the later part of 2022, and you
Yeah.
gave them the full meal deal.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Like it's to be honest, like everything that the band has become in terms of the spectacle has been built on top of the base that is essentially five friends just playing music that they love. And like from that base, there's always been a rapport and an energy with the band that then radiates out to the audience. And that connection with the band and the audience is basically that's what always makes things, I guess, an exceptional experience. Everything else on top of that is just a bonus. So we're like at the end of the day, like you strip it all away, and we're happy just to be able to play our instruments for some people. So this tour it's really great because the energy was still 150% every single night. Like I was blown away by the reception. Like I said, we really had no idea like what to expect coming back. 3 years, well, it was almost 4 years since we'd played North America. That's a long time. Like, and a lot of people could have either just gone, I've forgotten about them, I've moved on with my life, like, don't listen to that type of music anymore. Who the hell knows? And we went in with no expectation, and we're just like, let's, like, at the end of the day, what we love to do is just stand on stage and play our music, and everything else is going to be great. But what was thrown back at us from the crowd energy wise was really humbling and really, really intense every single night in a really good way.
Yeah, I
I
got a
definitely.
question. Sorry, Justin, go ahead. Sorry.
No.
I was just going to ask. You said 3 years. I mean, beyond the scope of the last tour you were just on and the ship that you just played,
Yeah.
what was it like not playing for 3 years? What consumed your life on a daily basis? Curiosity, you know.
It was really, really strange, man. It was really weird. I mean, like at that point in time, we'd been doing it for 17 years straight. Like
Yeah.
by straight, I mean for 17 years, at least 6 months every year was on the road, like minimum. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing stops, and you're in the one place. Like I think it was after 4 months, I was like, hey, this is the most time I've spent in one place for 17 years, which is a trip to adjust your life to. But I mean, we wrote a record in that time, and which kind of pushed us to a breaking point, to be honest. And went through a whole bunch of stuff as a band, in terms of sorting out shit out, mentally, and as a group. And that was kind of it. Like writing the record was really fun, and it was kind of what we had this dream scenario where we're like, oh my God, like if there's no plan of tour coming back for this foreseeable future, we can essentially spend all of our time writing the dream record where you have no time constraints. You can do whatever you want. But the catch with that is like if you like you write something and a year later you haven't released it, and you look back at it and you're bored with the thing that you wrote, so you rewrite it rather than letting it be. So we ended up doing this thing where it was just like you're chasing the tail of the concept of perfection, which kind of does your head in, and it kind of undid us a little bit. But at the end of the day, we were really happy with the record that we wrote and recorded, but it came at quite a cost, which we had to deal with at the end of it, which was why we cancelled that original tour that we had planned for the States. But yeah, luckily we got to come back and do this one and start it over again on such a really, really great footing.
You know, you mentioned the response you got from the audiences. I think a lot of, obviously, your longtime fans, but people who are new to you, if I wouldn't have known who you are and I stepped on that boat and I watched the 2 performances you guys put together, the one word that sells you guys is conviction, and any audience can pick that up. You don't have to be musically adept to understand when people are really, what they're selling you, they truly believe in. Yep. And I definitely think that's what your audience picks up on. So it's no surprise to hear that the audiences were very rapturous. I kind of expected that was going to happen. But I think another thing that kind of got people in the mood is during that time down, Viva the Underdogs really was able to grab people's attention, right? And everyone sees that Vakken performance and goes, holy fuck. I mean, it's a holy fuck. You guys showed it in the movie and the building up to that whole festival season. But when you did that, you kind of, as someone watching it on your TV, you just kind of go, holy fuck, this band is, they're there.
Yeah.
And
really,
I think what happened, and I was going to say, just American audiences, particularly who weren't party to that, they see that and go, I'm so stoked and I'm so revved up right now. It might be a year from two, it might be a year or two from now, but when they come, I'm going, and it's going to be that feeling too.
Oh, September, man. That's like, it's, I don't think it's announced yet, but I mean, we're playing Blue Ridge, and basically this is, like I said, it was testing the waters so we can play catch up on bringing the full Parkway experience. And to be honest, like I'd underestimated the impact that Viva the Underdogs documentary had stateside, because obviously, like it happened, it came out quite early in the pandemic. And that's another thing, like it's like three years, you're like, people even, like, if someone had watched it, had they forgotten about it? And if live music hasn't been going on, then did people even know? Like it's really strange. I found during meet and greets and talking to fans and stuff, a lot of them referencing that movie and those performances, and I really hadn't taken into account the impact that had in terms of people's perceptions of the band shifting, because it really, like, it's a very different, North America is in a different position for us to our major markets in Europe and back home in Australia, where we've been doing this kind of show for quite some time. And we were just planning on bringing it, like the tour that got originally cancelled from COVID was the one where we're like, here it is, we're bringing this, finally catch up time, everyone gets to see the full Parkway show, and then COVID shut that shit down, which was really frustrating. But it's nice that people were able to get a preview of what is to come, because it really, like, while I previously did say, like, at the end of the day, 5 guys on stage just playing, and everything that you said about conviction, 100% true. That's what this band is built on, and it's still there, but there is so much more to what we do as artists on stage that we've built over the years. Like it's not the kind of thing where we just got a bunch of flashy effects to put around the same show and just go bang, bing, boom, look, there's some other stuff. When we have graduated to these different arenas and stadium slots or whatever the hell's going on with festivals, we have taken the time to curate an actual show. Like, it's a heightened experience. It goes beyond just it's a very different experience from what you get walking into Parkway in a 1,000 cap or a 2,000 cap room. When you see us in an arena, it is a very, very much more extreme experience. And it's exciting. Like, I've wanted to show people in North America for a long time, and I'm really excited to finally bring it. And the fact they got a little bit of a teaser from that doco is really cool. Yeah,
I think that it certainly has a high level of stagecraft with the performance. I mean, the timing alone on just dealing with the fire must be just like, what
dude.
step do I take and what part of the song am I supposed to be here? I can imagine that's mind-boggling at times.
Yeah, it is. It's and I mean, we handle it all ourselves. That's the thing. Like all the stuff that you see built, the show that's been created has been. It's not like we got to these bigger venues and we're just like, here's a budget, throw it at someone and they can tell us what to do. Like we taught ourselves how to build a show and create an experience which we wanted to represent the band, which means the pyro cues, the pyro positioning, the lighting cues, the way that the show unfolds, the 3 acts, like circumference of the entire thing, like everything about it is very much curated through skills that we've chosen to learn over the years. Everyone in the band has a much more of a creative, I mean, it's insanely hands-on and DIY in every as much as DIY and as hands-on as it can be when you've got 5 semi-trailers and 3 buses and 60 staff members building this show that happens over a couple of hours for an evening. But at the end of the day, it's all overseen by like a handful of guys. So it's a very
that's badass, man.
Yeah, dude, it's a trip.
Yeah, I commend you, man. Like insane amount. I know what kind of work that is. I'm working on the venue side of things for years, being on the support, the one of 3 on those shows and watching everything that goes through. And then, you know, when something goes wrong, you know who to turn to and how to look at it. And also, you know how to navigate a room, a floor plan, what's going to happen, so you can make changes on a fly that won't see your budget suffering, A, and B, more importantly, will elevate your experience for that space with those fans. So
exactly, that's exactly it. Like it was weird. The really strange reality check. Like we spend a lot of time doing this and taking these baby steps into these spaces and learning these skills. And then COVID was kind of like the clean slate moment where you don't get to do anything for such a large amount of time that it kind of like the muscle memory and the feeling of being in a venue kind of bleeds out at you. And then the first tour we did back was this run in Europe, which was insane. Like it was the biggest shows we'd ever played, the biggest venues that we'd ever played. And we're rolling in the morning and I'm walking into these, what look like Coliseum-sized venues with nothing on the floor and watching our crew of like trucks roll in and build this entire stage and this entire show from the bolt on the cement all the way up to the ceiling. There's people hanging off the roofs, hanging all this stuff up. And where like myself and our manager and guitarist Luke like have to walk around the venue and make sight lines and make sure everything can be seen from the certain angles and how everything's going to work with all the different effects and stuff. And at the end of the day, we just stood there and we're like, how the hell are we at the center of this operation? Yeah. It was the real reality check of like, this is a crazy operation to be in, and it's far different from just going, oh, half an hour till you're standing on stage. Cool, just point me in the direction and I'll go and play my songs.
Yeah.
It's a
long way. It's a long way from the youth centers.
Yeah,
that's exactly what, I mean,
yeah, that's it. And it's just like it's another, like I get a large amount of joy and a large amount of joy out of it, and it's I mean, it's another part of creativity. That's the thing. I love being able to create that experience, and it makes me stoked to be able to do it, and to be able to do it in conjunction with the other thing, which is already my passion, and it just expand is really neat. And it obviously resonates. That's the thing. Like I can see it in the way that the reaction unfolds through the show, and the way that you've kind of curated the experience of how your music is going to be taken on through the added visuals which you've created. And it's really nice to see those moments hit, and for the reaction to land in the way that you want it to land, because it's I don't know, it's there's a different thing from just having your head blown off with strobes and some lights to being able to feel it and taste it and smell it as it's all going on around you in a sea of humans. It's quite a different impact, and it's very, very much heightened.
Yeah. It's someone was asking me to describe it, I would describe it as a Shakespearean street riot. In three acts. In three
yeah,
acts.
dude, yeah. And the last one's Die Hard.
That's right.
The
Fucking
ultimate
throw it
Christmas
all.
movie.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Parkway Drive is the Christmas band.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're optimizing the dream, man. I mean, the idea of like, okay, I come from the hall shows. That's where I
Yeah.
saw that same idea. When you're renting those and putting two speakers on some stands, and you got your friends' bands playing, you're like, okay, there's 200 kids that we got to come out to this thing. There's more people that are going to fit in here. How do we do this and make them happy? And then you move that same diagram of the way that you're thinking as the band that's throwing the hall show into a larger space. That's optimizing, I think, the dream. You want to be a musician?
100%.
Check. You want to do cool shit? Fucking check. You want to make the fucking cool shit happen? Fucking check, dude. That's dope, man.
That's completely it. And that's exactly what we've done like over the years. Like it's like I said, with the gradual steps, like it went from a youth center to a hall to a club and a pub to somewhere a little bit bigger, and it was all these different steps. And each time it was like, oh, you got a bit more space. What are you going to do with it? A few more people. How you want them to react? Like what are the moments going to be that makes their time worth it? Because like I want it to be something that they will remember. There's nothing worse than going to a gig and then you wake up the next day and you've kind of forgotten what it is. Like I want every Parkway gig to be the show that they're like, I'm going to remember that like till I'm old and gray.
They're gonna look in the mirror and look at their singed eyebrows and go, "Oh
yeah, man, yeah." I remember where I lost that eyebrow.
It's funny. I think one of the great things, Winston, too, about you guys, and you guys just spoke about it. You guys are self-contained, and nowadays with so many handlers in the world, every band's at a certain level has all these people hands in it. You guys are basically you run the show. You have a large staff. But they're all I'm sure that most of them are friends who became friends. Yep. But again, it's you guys, you running the stage staff, Luke managing, and you got Jeff doing production, and you got Ben doing video, and it's just it's an amazing feat. You guys have done it.
Yeah, cheers. I'm really, really proud of it. It's I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't be proud of it. Like it's stressful, but at the same point in time, like it was, I mean, it's what we care about. That's the thing. It really is our passion. And I'm lucky enough to be, like, just speaking for myself, in a band where somehow the other guys have had these interests within these fields, which I really like. I couldn't manage this band. No way. I can barely run GarageBand, let alone do like what Jeff does with like with our recordings and stuff like that. And like it's the fact that everyone has had these extra little things which they've been able to excel at beyond being really great musicians and good people has been like it's a pretty unique thing. But that being said, like we always, every time any band asks us for advice or wants to chat about anything, we're always very forthcoming in the fact of like, look, we didn't know half of these things when we started, and we chose to take an interest because, I mean, we cared about it. And also, like, if we weren't paying someone else to do it, there was a bit more money to go home and pay rent. So yeah. And in this era of like the music industry, it definitely, like, taking care of business yourself makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, speaking of music, let's talk about the new album. Well, it's not new now. It's been around a little bit, but Darker Still. Do you feel a little bit of departure from what you guys had done, especially like the last few albums, the Reverence and things like that? Do you feel this is more departure, like evolved? I guess you could use.
Oh, it's always evolved. 100%. 100%. Like the evolve is literally the bedrock of this band. That's the thing. I mean, the entire band's mission statement was always, when we started, was literally like challenge yourself to do something that you hadn't done before. And for us at that point in time, it was the hardcore kids trying to play some more metal kind of stuff, because that was completely foreign to us. It's just the leaps and bounds have become bigger and bigger as time's gone on, and COVID really provided that. I mean, the grounds for us to have no excuse in terms of reaching much further afield in terms of the influence of the sound and the way that we chose to, I guess, really articulate what we wanted to do. There was I mean, when you're writing a record in the middle of a touring cycle to go back on tour, there's a tendency to, like I said, with muscle memory, like you're playing show after show after show, you're used to playing or thinking even in a certain way when it comes to writing new material. And you also have in your head like, oh, a certain thing works live, especially, so maybe let's tap into that more. When we're doing in COVID, we're like, this might be the last record you ever get to write, and there's a chance that no one's ever leaving the house again and you're never playing a live show. So what's the statement going to be? And it was obviously the parts of Parkway which are always there, the heavy guitars, the overall heaviness of the sound, the lead guitars, like the very aggressive vocal stylings are there, but it's everything else is pushed so much further out than anything we'd done before, because it was the chance to really tap into those influences and those passions in a way that no other time period and no other circumstance would ever provide. And we're like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it now, and there's no excuse not to do it and do it well, because you've got 3 years to do it. So shut up and write.
It's funny because the tempos came down a little bit, but the crunchy heaviness was there with Glitch and Greatest Fear. And Soul Bleach kind of feels like, what people understand is like Parkway. That's the Parkway sound. Yeah. But obviously the one track now that's really starting to get people's attention more than other is really the title track. Yeah. Because it seriously does sound like the one great song Metallica missed. And I mean that with all, and I mean that in all respect, man. Listen, dude, listen, if anyone hears it, they're kind of rudimentary to who you guys are. It sounds like it came off the Black Album. And that's not saying that you guys, it's not a copy. It just feels that dense and heavy, and it just feels like an important song. And I'm not, it's just, and
it
real quick,
rules.
It fucking rules. But the thing was, but I think it's the things that make it. It's a very, and correct me if I'm wrong, it just sounds very Australian. The whistling, would imagine if they were stuck in the outback alone, that guitar sound, everything. And even like I was saying, Kess, that my Australian girlfriend goes, this is very Australian song. She's like, this is, she's like those rhythms, those patterns. It's all very much of that region. Tell us about that song, dude, because it is a monster.
Cheers, man. I'm really like, it's really, I wasn't stopping you there because I'm like, yes, compliments.
No, dude, it's just, I had to explain myself because I'm thinking, man, I thought all week, I said, listen to this damn song. I said, I got to talk to him about it, but I want to talk in full because it's a lot to unpackage, man. It's almost 7 minutes long.
Yeah, dude. It's, like, to be honest, this entire album was like where a lot of the influences that started us down this road of heavy music in general came to the fore, and that was a slower tempo, a lot more of a decision to lay into groove rather than adrenaline, which is something that we've never done before as a band. And a ballad was something which we had attempted, like we wanted to do something for 2 records before this, on Ire and on Reverence. There's both songs which we started with the idea of like, we're going to have a ballad on this record because we Jeff, our lead guitarist, his all-time favorite band is Metallica. Biggest influence ever, Metallica. Favorite album, Black Album. Like it's always been in his playing from the beginning, and yet we'd never been able to try something like this because every time we attempted it, we couldn't figure out how to write a song like that. It just was not, it's never been in our DNA, and we didn't know, we just couldn't wrap our brains around it. Even when we had what we thought was the skeleton of something which could evolve into this much more elaborate piece, we didn't know the push and pull of how those kind of songs worked. I couldn't figure out how to write a vocal melody, how to sing too much or not sing enough, and how to structure an entire thing. And it wasn't until this song came around, like it was actually really early on in the writing period that Ben and I rocked up to Jeff's place to jam one day, and he's like, yo, check out this riff. I got a mate to whistle over the top of it. and he showed us that clean guitar and the whistling, and that was it. That's all he had. And we're like, fuck, that's pretty cool. And then 2 days later, I messaged Ben and I was like, I can't get this melody out of my head. And he was like, I was about to message you the exact same thing. I can't get it out of my head. Like, I just can't get that melody out. And I was like, that's like the biggest check mark you can get when it comes to writing for us as the band. And from there, we're like, all right, this is at a tempo and of a sound. We should make this kind of song out of it. And from there, it was just like, we knew we had the first piece. And from there, we had to build it. And building it was a real challenge because that was the part that we'd failed at twice before. But we were like, there was a couple of times when we were like, you know what, let's just roll it back into a really cool rock song. And we'd start down that path and we're like, it doesn't do it justice. Like, we have to follow this epic route and we got to figure out how to do it. And it was actually one of the last songs which we finished in the studio. It took our producer George coming in and helping us like rearrange a couple of bits to actually get the final structure together. And at the end of the day, like it came out better than I could have hoped. It's one of those, every time there's something that Parkway does which really hits the nail on the head, it's when it takes all of the extra members of the band coming in and doing it together to articulate the vision that you had, which you couldn't quite see in your brain. You know what you want to create, but you can't quite articulate what it actually is. It takes those extra outside influences coming in to fill in those blanks. And that's what the relationship between us is. And that's why it always ends up something special. And this is the one where I was like, that's it. That's the song I'd always dreamed of. I can't believe we did it and nailed it in the way that we did. But it took everyone, like, it took everyone pushing to make that thing happen. And I'm really proud of it. Like, it's strange. I still find myself, like, after a gig walking around whistling that refrain, and I'm like, I'm whistling my own song. What the hell is going on? Like, why do I have my own song stuck in my head? That's I guess that's a nice thing, but yeah, it's I mean, that's kind of the story to it, I guess.
You know, every capable band has somewhere along the way has a comfortably numb somewhere in them, right? And this is one of those songs where if you guys stop tomorrow, if you just Parkway Drive's done,
yeah,
you have your cornerstone song.
Yeah, cheers. I really appreciate that, because I feel that way as well. Like, it's literally the proudest moment that I've had being in the band. I mean, it means a hell of a lot to me in terms of what I put into it, and it involves the band's best performance as artists, as far as I'm concerned. And then everything else that's laid on top of it, I love something epic. Like, when we started structuring the entire song, I was like, dude, Jeff, you've spent your entire time playing lead guitar. When this part drops and you finally unleash, this needs to be your moment where you're Slash outside of the church. Like, it has to go to Full November Rain.
All right, November Rain.
Like,
yep.
That's it. And I'm like, this is like, you have to be a guitar hero in this moment. I want you to be in an arena on top of a podium with all of the lights pointed at you and you just wailing for like the next 3.5 minutes. And I mean, it's what happened. And then that's what we do in the production. I'm literally like, here's Jeff on a podium in the middle of a whole bunch of people, and here's a guitar lord. So, yeah.
Dude, yeah, you sound like super, like, I just wanted to say, you sound like somebody who, this is a beacon. It sounds like this song is really a beacon to your overall essence as a band. And that's fucking cool to hear. I don't think we get to talk to artists that have a story that seemingly means much more than the song itself could ever mean. So
yeah, cheers.
That's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it is. It really is. Like, I'm as humble as I want to be about it. I'm really proud of being able to do it. And I'm so stoked that it's resonated in the way it resonated as well, because, like, the other thing is we made this album and we knew what was coming with it, and we made a choice to release that as like the third single. And we're like, there is no reference point for Parkway sounding like that previously, and we were like, this is like, if people don't get this is like the shotgun to the head. but it's that thing, like we've always trusted that if it means something to us and it passes our quality test, then it's going to resonate. And luckily, not luckily, it resonates for a reason, but it resonated the same way with everyone else as it has with us, which is, I guess that makes me really proud as well. Because I'm like, with something like that, you could very easily be disappearing up your own ass going, I wrote 7 minutes of something really sick. And you're like, no, that's just boring wankery.
I want to reference something you mentioned earlier. You talked about being gone for 3 years and you're worried about people forgetting about you, whatever. I think this song is the antithesis of that, because what it is you got to trust your audience. They want to take this journey with you, right? So you're challenging your audience too, but also they're 3 or 4 years older now and their tastes have changed. So like, I don't always need bangers. Sometimes I need something that's going to make me do some contemplative thinking. And that's the song. And I thought about the song and I listened to it, and I'm on YouTube watching it, and I read the comments. I want to hear what people have to think, how they think about it. And the amount of people this is like changed parts of their lives, or they've pulled them away from a dark edge, or they just lost someone in their lives. And this is somehow, even if the lyrics aren't explaining to it, the vibe of the song is enough to make people feel something other than grief or sadness, or sometimes they just go, this fucking song is amazing just because it's fucking amazing. It doesn't mean anything to them other than it just sounds fucking great. And that right there is when you know you have something, when you can affect people on so many different levels. It's incredible, dude. I mean, I can't say enough about a song. It's one of those songs like when they have these good, like hour-long documentaries over how they made the song. It's one of those songs. It really is one of those songs.
Cheers, man. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right. So let's talk about something. Oh, sorry, you do that before we get on to our other business.
So I listened today to your Surf Goth playlist. First of all, it's fucking slams, and they're like, I'm a huge Nick Cave fan, and like there's a lot of really this kind of like it kind of like encapsulates, I think, what you were saying about who you are as a person. And I seen it. Justin and I did the Q&A on the ship with you guys. Yeah. And you were candid about a question that I had asked about what you're going through. And to be honest with you, that question wasn't directed to you. You just took this moment, and you tell you went through some shit. You're very wise, and this band, just like this song, means way more to you as a human than I think that like a full record could ever tell the public, right? And I look at this playlist, I'm like, oh, I get it. There's the depth. You don't, like coming from the hall show scene and knowing what you were going through at that very point in time, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, so when you got asked to do it, did you already know exactly where you're going to go? Justin, if you haven't looked at this fucking playlist, I'm going to send it to you. It's dope.
Who's on it? Give me a few examples. I heard Nick Cave. Who else is on it?
Beyond like, okay, so Nick Cave, Rammstein, Beach Boys, Ghost. We got Slipknot. We got Zealand Ardor, Creeper. That out of nowhere, I like In Excess, Soundgarden, Depeche Mode, Radiohead, Bad Religion, Rolling Stones, Perfect Circle, Monster Magnet, White Zombie, Code Orange, Alanis Morissette, Danzig, going on. I mean, I could just Future fucking Islands. It's cool.
The one I want to talk about, the Beach Boys, just because it's a Brian Wilson, for fuck's sake. What is it about the Beach Boys? And obviously everyone go, oh man, he's a surfer, he does this. Yeah, I get all that, but past 1966, the Beach Boys are no longer a surf band. They were like a very psychedelic, intrinsic, thought-provoking band. What album by them, and why the Beach Boys?
Oh, I mean, Pet Sounds. That's it. So it's
absolutely.
It's not the surfer part for me. It's always. Yeah. I mean, I gravitate to darkness because I find it honest. Like no one's generally, like, as much as I love a love song, if it's just like I'm happy and you make me feel happy, like I don't know, that's, you can pay a false compliment, put it that way. You can pay someone a false compliment, but to be able to put try and capture true darkness and put that out there, that is generally for me a sign of vulnerability and and conviction, because you don't do that lightly. So it's always those songs which I think resonate with me more. And I'm not talking about like just going, I hate you, I'm pissed off, something like this. I'm saying like true, like true confrontational music of a darker nature is formed through an outlet that is definitely, it has to have depth to it. So it's those songs which always resonate with me. And that's what all of these artists that's the goth part for me. And the goth part is the realness. And that's what the soundtrack is. Like I listen, there's plenty of stuff that I listen to for my dopamine hits where I'm just like, I just want something in the background where it's just saying neat things and everything's nice and I'm driving around in the sun. But when I actually want to sit down and I want to connect, I find that the connection is through those more, I guess, darker portals into the human psyche that these artists provide. And there's plenty of other ones, but that's just my listening habits, I guess. There's a difference between, I guess, just being around when music's on and actually connecting with music. So
yeah. I assume at some point in your career we're going to hear you do a version of "I Just Wasn't Made for These Times."
Yeah, possibly.
yeah. You know, real quick about the funny thing, Chad, about and Winston, you probably know this as a fan, is that after they put out Endless Summer in like 73, you know, the Capitol went, hey, we got to put out the sunny shit. Well, then they dropped Surf's Up, which sounds like a cool surf album. And then it's the darkest, dreariest thing ever laid to vinyl. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'll have to check out your list, because I mean, Depeche Mode, obviously, they're the band, the gothy kind of dance band that metalheads love.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Huge.
It's all like that. Yeah. It's there.
Yeah. I came across it and I was like, I'm gonna check it out. I mean, first of all, that's curating a playlist in like, you know, doing it on your own is one thing, but then having a platform like Apple to allow you to talk about through song just how deep you are as a person is got to be a pretty cool feeling.
It's definitely like I'm really stoked with the opportunity to do that, and also like I think it gives people a window into what goes into the craft that we create as well. Because I think it is very easy to listen to Parkway and like whatever era, especially our earlier era, and just go, they're one thing, and that's adrenaline and aggression, basically. But I mean, the music has transformed over the transformation of the people behind it, and that's quite evident in, like, you want to know why things sound weird and different, listen to the music that that I'm listening to, and you kind of get an idea of like, oh, it's not just like, he's not just listening to Slayer, he's not just listening to metal, he's not just listening to hardcore. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here which is obviously influencing everything that comes out of this band. And it doesn't mean that we want to create music that sounds like that, but when you're taking in input from things which inspire you, that are outside of the box which you already create things in, it ends up warping those sensibilities and those sounds in a way that you don't necessarily expect as someone who, I guess, is like, why has that change happened? I'm like, well, here's what's behind it. Here's the ingredients.
Yes. Yeah, I love it.
I mean, we always tend to forget our artists are fans first and foremost.
Yeah, man. And that's why they do it. Like, that's the thing. And we all connect with this medium because it means something to us. Like, it means something that is not just product. Like, it's strange I've always found it strange to go, we create art, because I'm like, it's a very violent, visceral kind of art, if that's true. But I mean, art is not created in a vacuum. It's created from human experience. Otherwise you end up just with, I don't know, algorithms, don't you? Algorithms and products. And I do not care about creating a product.
Yeah,
that's great. Algorithms.
So you guys joined us on our last cruise. We just finished up about a month and a half ago, and before we went to air, we talked about your two shows, and they were, just being biased here, probably the two greatest shows I've seen. It's great to see one band, do one of your shows. That thing was off the hook, but both of them were like, holy shit. And I didn't know if it was because The first one, obviously, there was so much interaction with the audience and you going up into the crowd, which is a lot of fun, by the way. And that's one of those things where you go, okay. Because the year before that, we had Lamb of God, and they played in the pouring rainstorm on the deck, and that was like the whole other thing too. And then you go, well, how's this going to get topped? Oh, there he goes.
Yeah.
Okay, we just
there he
did
goes. He's climbing up to the top.
And then I think, and the second night, were just the fan, because a lot of people who didn't make that first show for whatever reason came to the second show, and it was just the fan, the energy in the audience going back to the stage was just like, it was just like, you just kind of sit there and go, yeah. Man,
moving,
so
man.
I mean,
moving as fuck,
dude. So what was your ideas when you guys were coming on? And I don't know if you guys had done it. Have you done anything like that before, like a cruise?
No. Dude, I went on a ship once when I was 6. So it's like a whole experience.
Okay.
We had no idea what to expect from it. And when we even when we had the offer presented to us, like, yo, you want to play ShipRocked? We're like, it's like someone literally going, hey, you want to go to the moon? You're like, what does that even entail? Like, I can't wrap my mind around how any of this works. And we were just like, you know what? This is going to be an experience. This is just going to be something unlike anything we've ever done before. And we will be guaranteed to remember this. Everything after that, we were just like, well, what's the stage going to look like? How's the show going to work? What are you allowed to do? What happens if the boat's moving when you play? We're just like, you know what? Let's just roll with it. Like, we've just come out of COVID. Like, we haven't done anything in so long. This sounds like the perfect opportunity to just experience something really unique. And that was the way we approached the entire thing. And then when we saw the stage set up, like on top of the pool with like all the decks around it, was like, this is going to be absolutely mental. And the first night, like, I enjoy interacting with the crowd in terms of just, I like building the energy, because we always come on stage with literally 110% energy. We play every night like it's going to be the last thing we ever get to do, because you can't ever bank on having another show. And we want, like, when you talk about conviction, like, that's the energy that I want to get across to people, is that we care about being here and we want you to enjoy it. I want it to be worth your time, and I want the experience to be something you remember. So when we stepped on stage the first night, it was really like, we're on a boat in the middle of nowhere. I don't know how hard I'm allowed to go in terms of telling people, hey, like, I don't know. I will push the bounds in terms of like letting people know, hey, do what you want to do. If you want to crawl on top of your friend, go for it. You want to jump off something and crowd surf, that's sweet. You want to jump up and down until the floor bends, that's fantastic. As long as no one gets hurt, that's great. But we're on a ship, and I'm like, are we allowed to jump? Does that make it capsize? Like, I'm not going to tell someone to jump off something because this thing's 3 stories high, and maybe someone will actually do it. So it was this push and pull of energy, where like, it was already an amazing show, but the whole time I was like, what am I going to do here to make sure that this is, like, I'm already feeling like I want there to be something more. I want to give something more. So that was the point where I was just like, I'm climbing up there. I want to see what this whole thing looks like. So I'm just running up the deck, and we're playing that and the bottom feeder while I headbang with the crowd on the second deck.
Yeah.
So that was basically the thought process behind that. And then the second show, it had sunk in a bit of like, they're up for it. And it seems like kind of anything goes to a degree of like, everyone seems to be really respectful of each other. Like, we felt out, we've been on the boat for, at that point in time, 4 days. And I think I'd met pretty much every single person on the cruise at this point in time. And everyone was like, that's nuts. That show was sick. We had so much fun. I was like, okay, people are really respectful of each other and they just want to have a good time. So just let them know it's okay to have a good time. And then all of a sudden, boom, the energy jumps up even higher. And yeah, it's kind of just the way it rolled, man. It was really, really fun.
You know, that's what's so great about the cruise is because you're on a boat in the middle of nowhere. You can really do things that normally at your normal run-of-the-mill show or whatever wherever you're routed, you can't. It's not, the facility's not there for you to do that.
Yeah.
But that's what's so fun about those kind of things, where a band of your stature can go out and just gonna go run in the crowd and just see what happens.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm so used to get like, I very rarely do that. I think I've probably done that like 6 times in my entire career of like I'm getting down and running somewhere, because as soon as I get in the crowd, my in-ear pack's ripped off. I've lost half of my gear. The mic's feeding back and everything. And I was just like, no, you know what? These people are cool. Let's roll with it. And like high five a bunch of people at the bar on the way through, grab someone around the neck while I'm rolling up the stairs, and hang out with a couple of randoms on the top of the deck and headbang. It's sick.
Yeah, someone spilled their margarita and they're okay with it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It was so good. But I guess that vibe goes for the whole cruise. That's the thing. It was so fun.
I think it's cool too, because it's a great working vacation. You get to get off on these little islands you may never visit again, or you maybe have not been to or want to, and that's kind of cool. Were you guys able to take advantage of those quiet times?
Yeah, hell yeah, man! It was I'm not lying when I say every single part of this adventure exceeded our expectations. So much more than I ever conceived. Like, it was the boat was one thing, the rooms and like what was provided, and like being able to just hang out in the middle of the ocean. Like, as people who are surfers and love being in the ocean in the first place, I was like, this is beautiful. Like, it was stunning just being able to sit out there and like be in the middle of nowhere and experience like cruising through the Caribbean. And then that first stop in the Bahamas, like we didn't know. We have like I'm going to say we are like snobs when it comes to beaches. We live in a place with very, very beautiful beaches, and we've traveled to a lot of places around the world, and I have high standards. I have very high standards, and we're going to the Bahamas, but this first one, I don't know. That's the first stop. It might be like a bit of a warm up or something. And when we rocked up, we're like, this is the clearest water and the whitest sand I've ever seen in my entire life. This is like, I was literally floored. Every single person in the band was like, what the hell? Then we just get to hang out here for the day, and then we go back to the boat and hit the pizza bar. Like, what is this? Like, in terms of a working holiday, like I would do that as just a holiday without even without the working part and the being able to get to do the gig. We're like, this is just kind of a dream, isn't it? And every other stop, like Grand Turk, same deal. As Dominican Republic, like absolutely wild. Like,
were you guys able to go out and find some surf in then Dominica?
No, actually, the conditions were pretty rough. I think a couple of like rough in terms of the wind. The beach was still stunning, but a couple of the guys may have gone. I can't remember if they went up into the mountains or they went to the beach. But Ben, our drummer, found waves on Grand Turk and ended up borrowing some local surfboard. Literally, just walking along the beach, and I saw some waves too, and I was like, "Oh my god! If only we had a surfboard, we could surf that." And he saw a board and literally went up and knocked on a local's back door and was like, "Hi, is that your surfboard?" And they're like, "Oh, that's my grandkid's surfboard." And he's like, "Can I borrow it?" And they're like, "Yeah, go for it." And he went out and surfed Grand Turk.
That's amazing. That's amazing story.
So fucking tight.
Yeah, man, so sick.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Damn,
that's awesome.
I got a sea legs question, and then I'll leave you the boat stuff alone. So you guys had to tour after this, right? You know, like when you guys got how many days from debarkation did you actually have to play? Like,
we were actually pretty cool. I think we had like 3 days. I went to Disney World after this, so yeah. Any sea legs that I had was immediately overridden by getting spun around in circles on some crazy ride. But you know what? One of the things that I was actually shocked with was like, I don't think we actually got sea legs, to be honest. I found the boat so stable, like crazy stable. This is coming from someone who's used to being on a bus touring and you rocking side to side. And you notice all these things. I found it to be like barely noticeable, to be honest.
You are king.
Cool. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah,
the showers are always weird for me.
It's pretty bad. So
yeah, you do. Wow, that's great, man. I was just wondering, like, okay, they hadn't done a boat before, then they haven't gone into the United States before. Going walking on stage like this is fucking my equilibrium.
You see everyone on stage and the whole band all of a sudden veers to the right.
It looks like a choreographed fucking stage move.
Hey, was that your first time to Disney? Was that your first time to Disney World?
Yeah, Disney World. Like I've been to the LA one, but not the Orlando one. I'd underestimated how massive that area was.
Is that the one with the star? Is that the one that has a Star Wars thing? Because I noticed all the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah,
is that where you went?
Yeah,
were you into it?
Yeah, as you can tell.
Yeah, a little bit.
Massive Star Wars fan. Yeah, my wife booked us there and was literally like, we're going on Rise of the Resistance. That's the whole reason we were there. And we got up at like 7 a.m. to be like there, like first in line. Well, we weren't first in line. We got to the line right as the park opened, and it was still like a 45-minute
Oh my
wait.
God, nerd.
But full on nerd, man. It blew my mind though. It was really sick. She's got a bunch of photos of me just going, like a 6-year-old.
That's awesome.
Sounds like she rules. That's cool.
Oh yeah, she's the best. She is the best. She came on the boat too and had an absolute blast as well. So yeah.
You know what is so funny is I always walked up and I always saw her talk, and people were just like talking to her, just like, hey, she was always in the mix.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all were, and people were nice, man. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
I love meeting people when people are good people, and I was really, really humbled and really stoked with how nice the fans and the people on the boat were to us. Like it was just a really genuine rapport. Like I'm someone who gets kind of weirded out to be seen as anything other than just a person, and for someone, I don't know, just hang out is kind of just it's nice.
You know, Winston, we always tell people, it's like once they first see you, they're kind of like, oh my God. But then after that, it's like, hey, you're just adults, and it's just a big clubhouse at that time, right? Like we're all all doing the same thing, man. We're all just enjoying our vacation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was cool. It was really cool. Yeah. She loved it.
Hey, Chad, you want to do walk the plank with Winston?
I do. So this is,
yeah,
this is pretty, they're like questions, right? I'm just going to ask you a question. And typically it's not about music. And there's also some, so the guests we had on before, they asked a question not knowing who the guest is going to be. Okay. And then, so you'll answer it and then you'll do the same for the next. That's cool. Yeah. My question though is, what is the smell you associate with your childhood? Like what's a smell?
The ocean. I mean, I still like because I've literally never even thought about that question in my entire life. And the salt, specifically the salt. We used to live in Sydney until I was like 6, and the rocks there, like in the summer, the rock pools would dry off, and you'd be left with just salt. So walking along the sandstone rocks and smelling the salt from the ocean,
that's pleasant. I like that.
It is pleasant, yeah. It's not dog shit.
It would have been weird to be like dog shit.
Hey, if you were to live your life for 1 year as an animal, what kind of animal would it be and why?
A blue whale. So here's the reason. I was going to say, an eagle, because then I'd get to fly around the entire earth and see everything. But you can kind of already do that as a human. As a blue whale, you can go basically to the other 2/3 of the planet that humans don't get to experience. And also you'd be the biggest thing on the earth, so you're not getting fucked with. And I think it'd just be fascinating to be the biggest thing on the planet and to be able to dive as deep as you want and see and comprehend what's in the depths. There you go.
Chad, make a note. We're going to go ahead and buy 5 tons of plankton for Winston for Christmas.
Next time I come on the boat, there's my rider for you.
I don't know where we're going to get this. Is there a local health food store?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the question from our guest last episode. Is basically, if I remember correctly, I tried to type it down exactly verbatim. Tell us your craziest party story. Like, what exactly happened?
Craziest party story.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to throw. This is not me. So you're talking to someone who hasn't drunk in like 20-something years, and I'm not a party guy.
Right.
So I will offer up a story of a party which happened on our bus several years ago in Sweden. And this is, I'm throwing our stage manager, Fishy, under the bus here. But at that point in time, he was just our guitar tech. It was his birthday on an off day in Sweden. He had drunk about half a bottle of vodka in 15 minutes. And we're like, whoa, this is going to be pretty loose. The rest of the band is in the back lounge. We're all playing FIFA on the PlayStation. There's literally 5 of us sitting there, just nerding out in a back lounge. The entire door, and I'm not talking like swinging. The entire door flies off its hinges and lands on the table in between all of us with him on top of it. And we're like, what the hell? And he's so drunk, he tried to open the door, couldn't. So he crash tackled the door off the hinges. That thing lands in between all of us. We're like, oh, okay, this is not a good beginning. So we all abandon that space and we go downstairs. And 5 minutes later, I just hear this thump. And I turn around and I see him going headfirst down the staircase of the 2-story bus, sliding on his stomach, just like a fish, going duk, 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 duk. And he landed down the bottom with his head wedged between like the door and the pillar which the door rotates on. And I was like, I think he's dead, but he wasn't dead. His head landed just outside the bus, and he proceeded to just start vomiting outside of the bus. Yeah, that was Fishy's dodgy night.
At least he's respectful.
How he made it to the bathroom. He's like, I gotta puke.
Oh yeah, it was him and like our bass player Jai holding him by the hand while he was just literally like a dead fish, just going out the door.
Oh man,
he doesn't drink like that anymore, which is really, really great. But yeah, it was gnarly. I then had to push him all the way up the stairs, like up the spiral staircase of the bus. I was under him going, come on, time for bed, buddy. And I'm just lifting him up. And I'm like, you have no muscle strength left in your body, do you? So, yeah.
That is awesome. Hey, who asked that one?
That was Franz. Franz from the band.
Oh, he'll appreciate it then. Sick.
Yeah, he will. I'm going to text him after this and let him know, hey, check out the episode on Monday. Winston answered your question. Okay, so you want to, I can't tell you who the guest is going to be, so you just get asked the question.
So here's my question. It's you get to pick option A or option B, and you have to explain it. If you had to either fight a bear, and it's got to be like, I'm going to say something at least a little bit bigger than you, or fight a shark, which one are you going to do?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So fight a bear or fight a shark. If you had to pick between fighting a bear or a shark,
you're either getting dropped on a little island, like a little Mortal Kombat stage with a bear, or you're getting dropped into a tank with a shark.
Mortal Kombat.
Which one are you doing?
Oh, I love that. with the caveat of picture yourself in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
All right. Got it. All
awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Well, listen, Winston, we've had you for almost an hour, my friend. So we appreciate it. So you've got Blue. You mentioned Blue Ridge coming up. Obviously, that is going to lead into a second round tour of the States, I would assume.
We got some stuff coming up. Like, keep an eye out for it. But the plan is that we will be back in September, and the next time you see us will be the full Parkway Drive experience. And yeah, that's like, it's coming and it's real. That's all I'm going to say. Like, as much as I don't like talking things up, I think people need to know to expect several levels up from what they've seen from this band in your country thus far.
I'm sure you guys could do an acoustic set and they'd still be thrilled. So we're all good here.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys.
As well.
Hey, listen, guys, this episode will drop on Monday. I guess upcoming Monday. Dates. It's already March. I can't believe it.
Oh my God,
so March 5th or something like that. March 6th. Before we sign off, guys, real quick, couldn't thank these folks without them. We couldn't do the show. So thanks to Al McManus as our show producer, Jennifer Zito, our show engineer, and Heather Smith, our show coordinator. Winston, thank you guys. Check out Darker Still. It's on Epitaph Records, and look for these guys in the fall. Thanks again, bud. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, this is a thrill. Thank you.
Seriously.
My pleasure.